Okay, welcome to the Bucky Call for the weekend of March 1st, March 2nd, depending on which continent you're on. We're just so exciting tonight. Life is happening. We're starting a bit late on the call because we've been able to share at the beginning. What a wonderful group we have, what wonderful sharing we have. And um, Joe is here in spite of his mom in the hospital. Uh, Manu is here at the crack of dark 30 from Africa. Manu, we're so glad to have you. And so, in fact, let's begin with you. Manu, how are you feeling tonight or this morning for you? And what are you anticipating?
It's incident. I just thought of you guys. I was up and then I say I'm coming because as you've noticed, I've been privileging my health, these days because it was very early for me. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. I see that everybody there. Joe, we are with you. Keep up. And I'm listening.
Cool.
I'm really listening. In listening mode.
Go ahead, Redford. You want to pass it on to somebody else for the.
Let me pass it to Joe.
Okay, Joe.
Joe, we know how you're feeling, but what do you expect?
Oh, you're muted, my man.
I'm expecting a conversation. These conversations actually serve as a really healthy distraction. And it's good to see everybody, having the routine that I've had over the past few years, and having everybody on this call in my life has it serves me now. And 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 yeah, I'm in a little bit of pain, but what am I expecting? I'm expecting you know, to continue and really kind of get into the idea of spherical packing. We actually had a series at 52 Living Ideas, uh, with this, talking about spherical packing, specifically with Strupi, who, is able to demonstrate this in a number of different ways in the, uh, with physical objects, but also to speak about the implications, even at a higher level, much more noble level, in meaning understanding Bucky's concepts. So, and I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's comments about that. So, Anne, how do you feel? Would you like to take away from that?
Glad to be here. Definitely glad to be here. And I think one of the things that came out from our previous discussions was the difference, no, rather that there's balance and then there's equilibrium, and they are not quite the same, right? So I really, really took that, that gave a massive shift in some of the perspectives I've been having, and to be able to talk to people about and to be able to differentiate the discussions that we're having, whether we're talking about balance or equilibrium. Yeah. And to be able to point out the difference that really made a huge difference. So today's moving forward to see where we're going to go with it. And, earlier on, whatever we were discussing with Richard earlier and Joe with your mom, this is what this group is about, So anytime we step in and we start talking to each other, for me, our 2 hours have started, and we never know, ever know where it takes us, where it starts, where it takes us. So for me, it's just powerful and uh and very, I think there's a lot of personal um personal conversation that goes around in our meetings. Yeah, so I really, really love that about the Sunday meets and the Wednesday meets. So Richard, how do you feel, and what would you like to take away?
Well, I am feeling pretty good. In another context, I was on one of our meetings this morning, the Trim Tab group, and we've been reading the book Education Automation, which is quite a long speech, actually, that Fuller made to a university in Illinois in 1962. And there's quite a lot in it that has to do with the Malthusian idea of scarcity, and that it's either you or me, that whole idea that says you need to separate people out and the good guys win and the bad guys lose. But the big thing that came out of that I wanted to share here is that another colleague, Stephen Bao, who's a fellow Canadian, but he's been working through the Buckminster Fuller Institute and a number of colleagues on a number of projects, but the one they've been working on is called the Earth Story. It's a new kind of curriculum that's using a lot of these systems ideas, Fuller's ideas, and they've turned it into a curriculum support for young people in the school systems, and they're going to pilot it. And I've just looked at the slides of it, and it really looks promising. Things like the Dymaxion map are featured quite prominently. And they're using it so that you can get an understanding of climate change, desertification, and all kinds of sort of natural sort of system issues. And they're going to pilot it through some school systems, I think, in California. And already the teachers are really quite enthusiastic about it, and they're hoping that the young people will feel the same way when they get into the lesson side of it. So I wanted to let everybody know about that, because it's based on Fuller and Amy's kind of work, and I haven't done it, but I'm sending the link to Anne for her to take a look at it and see what she thinks of it. And so good news. Back to you, Steve. How are you feeling?
Are there going to be more calls on that topic?
On the Earth Story?
Yeah.
No, I don't think like this was just an announcement, but what I can also do is I can send the link to all of us.
Okay.
And then you can take a look at it and see what you think as well.
Wonderful. Good. Thank you. I'm really excited about tonight. It's amazing how the weekend call kind of dovetails so much into the Wednesday call, and like Richard's saying, it dovetails into everything he's doing, and like all of us, it's all dovetailing into things that we're doing. And tonight we're going to be talking about spheres and packing, and I'm real excited that Manu's here on this one, because this topic is topology at its best, and I think Manu has the most topological brain on the planet Earth. So I think we're going to have fun with him being here. So I'm looking forward to jumping in. I've already seen the diagrams over the next few pages. We're starting on my book, page 115, chapter 8, Tales Told by Spheres. And we'll go ahead, and if there's no other input, we'll go ahead and we'll start the share. Here we go. Okay, and ammo. Okay, that should be it. And what I've discovered, that it's good if we kind of rotate around. I'll go ahead and start first, read a page, and then we can all share and read something here. Tales Told by the Spheres, Closest Packing. Much has been written over the years by mathematicians and scientists about the problem of close packing, equiradius spheres. It's not a subject that the rest of humanity has tended to get excited about. However, the orderly patterns revealed by these packings are unexpectedly fascinating. Close packing equiradius spheres might at first seem like the type of abstract mathematical game Fuller railed against. After all, there's no such thing as a sphere. Hmm. But if nature exhibits no examples of pure spheres, that is, no perfectly continuous surfaces equidistant from one center, we can still discuss the concept of spherical domain. Imagine various approximations of the model, such as a soap bubble, or less fragile, a ping pong ball. The concept of multiple equiradial spheres turns out to be quite useful, providing a superb tool with which to investigate the properties of space. Let's look into some of the reasons why. I just
Can
like to
I?
comment. Go ahead.
I just wanted to share something. I'm not able to find here the hand raising, but look at this. Two balls, eh?
Yeah, I'm going to stop sharing so we can see your balls. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Manu. And if you know how
Yeah,
to
look at this.
pin, if you know how to pin Manu's picture, instead of seeing the gallery view, we can say to go into speaker view. I'm going to go ahead and pin Manu, so that's all I can see is him.
Okay, this look like spheres now,
Yeah.
but the reality is this. Look at this. I'm applying some force here. That's the way they link in reality.
Okay.
So they become some spheroids.
Right.
And what happened is that it's like a continuum. It's like two fluids with different densities.
Right.
One flows in the interstices. And that intermingling the interstices is what you call the relationship. You have two spheres, two things, which are not solid. Nothing is solid.
Right.
They are constantly folding and unfolding.
Right.
They are in, some forces apply. Let's just
Right.
say from the environment, something happens.
Yeah.
Let's say compression. This is the way it is. Right?
Yeah, that's compression, right?
Yes. One like get into the other. Right? Because it will create a concave and a convex
Right.
into this application. And that concept of concave and convex is the metaphysical relationship.
Well, you have to go another step and talk about if that's compression, then if in a tensegrity sense, how do you illustrate or demonstrate tension between two?
Something pulls apart. That's the
And,
flexibility. Always in
and
motion. Always in motion.
And
Coming to
that's a beautiful example because it's the kind of thing that I was trying to do teaching years ago, that when he showed the separation like that and said that's tension, um, we can't see
Yeah.
uh, what's going on between. We have to visualize it in some form.
Right.
the
We can see the
relationship,
compression.
Richard. The
We can see the,
relationship.
let me just say, we can see the compression because the balls are squished. But
Yeah,
when he pulls them apart, we can't see the tension.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good point, Richard. Go ahead, Manu.
In your tetrahedron, we represent the relationship of these six, but
Okay,
they don't.
Manu,
We don't see.
before
We don't.
Manu,
Yeah.
please, before you share, I'm going to tell everybody, I want everybody to make sure that they understand how to pin the pin the picture, and I want to show the benefits of pinning. I'm going to show everybody. Here's the screenshot, you guys, of, I'm going to share the screen. Here's the screenshot I took of Manu being pinned to the picture. You guys are all up here in the gallery, but because it's in the upper right hand corner, there are three dots. And those three dots, if you click there, it'll say pin. And when you pin, then his picture gets big. And notice over here now, I can remove the pin anytime I want. But now I can see Manu full force, and all of you guys are racked up across the top. You all got that? So I wanted to
Got it.
show that. So now as Manu continues, you guys can pin his picture and get a good shot of what he's going to say. Manu, please continue.
I was going to say this is a tetrahedron. This is red, is not real. We don't actually see it.
That's right. Yeah.
It is metaphysical.
Right.
What we see is the spheres, is the vertexes.
Yeah.
The people, the actors. We see the actors.
May I say, Manu, we see the four vertexes interrelating and the energy appears spherical.
And that is the movie.
Yeah, that's the movie we're seeing.
That is the movie we see.
That's right.
It's the interaction of the actors playing.
Right.
Okay. So I wanted, the concept that I wanted to be is that, to bring is that the thing is not solid. It's by deformation of a thing that we have the relationship. Because some field is applying some between quote forces.
Right.
Because that.
Wonderful.
It's important to notice that the field surround the whole of these things.
Wonderful.
Okay, I'm through.
Okay, well, look, I want to share. Go ahead, Richard, if you have something, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm kind of coming on my computer as well now, but I mean, what Manu is doing is what's such a big challenge when you're trying to teach to this concept, and to be able to get people to experience the fact that models, the red connectors, are not there in real life. It's the relationship is invisible, and because it's invisible, the eye very often will slide over to one of the nodes or one of the vertexes. And so it turns the relationship into a thing when it's not supposed to. But the eye just has a difficulty in being able to see what it can't see.
Exactly. You know, this is true with people. And I'm going to share a couple of slides because it's so exciting. We are spheres of energy and we manifest as physical bodies, right? But we're actually spheres of energy, and people want to relate to my thing, my body, the thing they see. But what I actually am is I am energy, and my energy, is mixing in. When we stand within 3 feet of each other, the electromagnetic fields of our heart are interconnecting, and some who are sensitive can feel that closeness, but many are not tuned to feel that closeness. Let me share with you what I'm talking about here, because this is exciting. I'm going to share my screen, and I'm going to show this first picture, which is, you know, in New Age stuff, we see these energy centers in our body. And then we have the root chakra and the sacral chakra and the solar plexus, the heart chakra in the center. That's the one with the biggest electromagnetic field. The throat chakra, the third eye chakra, and the crown chakra. Those manifest like this. And the only reason why these concentric spheres are smaller than each other is to show that a different relationship. Like over on this guy, we have it, the energy is stacked up with the root chakras on the bottom. But here, the red is the root chakra is shown in the center, expanding out. But actually, all of these things are here. And in ancient times, they'd have pictures like this, where those who knew about these energies would do what they could to, there we go, to say, okay, here's how the energy around people are, and this is what the New Age people are talking about now, and this is what the mystics of old. This looks actually like a battery. You could imagine a AAA battery or a C cell battery here. So with the positive end on one end and the negative end on the other end, and the electromagnetic energy is actually flowing around this battery. Well, that's what it's doing around the human body.
Wow.
And so everything Manu is saying about those balls is happening with us. And when we stand together, we kind of compress, but as we move apart, we still have that inner relationship that's not visible. I wanted to just, I wanted to show something here that looked like, to show you that we're not just talking about balls here.
Can you show again your first, Steve? I
Yeah, be
was
glad
having
to.
I was taking pictures.
All right, hang on.
First one.
Here we go. And the first one was the chakras vertical.
Yes.
There we go. I'd be glad to. I'll attach this in the chat. I'll drop this in the chat. So if you
That's
want,
fine. I got it.
yeah.
Yes, you
And
can touch it.
okay, good. And then here are the spheres shown a different
Yes,
way.
I've had those already.
Okay, good. And then that's wonderful. Okay, I'll drop it in the chat. Any other comments or questions before we move on? Okay, I think that was it. I wanted to say, and I'm sorry to talk so much, that this first paragraph kind of blew my mind here because I love the fact that just like there are no lines, there are no straight lines in the universe, there are no spheres. there are just toroids of energy.
Mhm.
And we want to see them as self-similar. And that's why we look at ping pong balls. That's why in the book they say, well, look at ping pong balls. We're going to stack ping pong balls. And we have ping pong balls because they are things we made. But in nature, nothing is as self-similar as a ping pong
Yeah.
ball. Go ahead.
Not that in the stacking of packing of spheres, when you join the centers, the first inner core is a tetrahedron. Then you add one, you continue around, and it's more and more when you join the outer cores,
Yeah.
they more and more approximate a sphere.
Yeah.
Right? In the most expanded, you're going to have a lot of tetrahedral faces that form the sphere. Right?
Beautiful.
But it's all kind of a representation. And the reality is that we only see where the intermingling of energy that flows is the most intense.
Right.
Those are the form that we see. We see the core of things, that relationship in there. But it doesn't mean that something doesn't exist eons away. Right?
Yeah.
We see the gravity field like manifesting like that. But gravity, what we see here locally, I don't know what the scale is, how far it goes.
Yeah. Are you complete?
Yes, yes, yes.
All right, great. So I'm going to, if I can, because we're on this topic, I'm going to go just one step further, if I may, and just drive this thing into the ground. I love the fact that Amy here in the book, in order to teach us about these spheres, focuses on two things, or mentions two things. One, the ping pong balls, because they're easy to see as equiradial spheres. The other is soap bubbles. I think that everything is more like soap bubbles. I mean, how are you going to find two soap bubbles that are exactly the same size, with exactly the same density, with exactly the same temperature? Soap bubbles are all different. So is everything. And I think a human being, just like we can go to the gym and exercise and build muscles, we can meditate and build energy. And when I say to meditate, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm building the energy, those 7 colors, from the red out to the ultraviolet, from infrared to ultraviolet. I'm building all that rainbow of energy in my body. I'm going to share a couple things with you. The logo for Extreme Mindfulness is this guy here. This is my logo. That was just, I'm going to tell you, this is a personal sketch of me. I had a friend of mine just sketch me as I was sitting in a meditation. And this is the root chakra, the energy, the root energy. This is the close of the earth. This is DNA. And up here, this is the crown chakra. This is our connection to heaven. And what I had in a vision was the interrelationship between the crown chakra and the root chakra, that they actually hook together into concave, convex, a kind of a yin-yang spherical interrelationship. Same thing with the third eye chakra and the sacral chakra. This is tribal. Here's my family, my tribe. This is my DNA. This is up here, the orange is my epigenetic code, my family, my ability to change my DNA by my culture and by my choices. This is my third eye, my vision of me as a star child, my vision of my connection to other people outside of my tribe. This is what connects me to you guys. You're not in my valley, you know. My valley's down here. My tribe says, "What are you? You're weird. Why do you get on these calls at so late at night on Saturday and so early in the morning on Wednesday? What are you, crazy?" No, I have a spiritual tribe, and I'm connecting my local tribe with my spiritual tribe. And then here's the choice chakra, the solar plexus. This is where like you get the wind knocked out of you. You get the second wind. It's that power to move ahead. This is the power to choose. And this is the throat chakra, the power to speak the truth of one's experience. And I found that the choices I make are limited by how much truth I speak. And how much truth I speak is limited by the choices I make in my life. So I found this kind of yin-yang interrelationship between these chakras. And of course, these are related to the electromagnetic spectrum and how the red is at the bottom and the ultraviolet, the purple's at the top. And I just thought that was really cool. So I wanted to share that. And then I want to share one other one here. Oh, yeah. Because I talked about the interrelationships and how they're all yin yang. So here's the throat chakra and the solar plexus chakra. And these point to this outside yin yang over here. And then there's the third eye, which is my spiritual tribe, to my sacral chakra, which is my family tribe, my geographic tribe. There's yin yang there. And then here's my crown chakra, my connection to heaven. And here is my root chakra, my connection to DNA, to the earth, because DNA is of the earth. And there is my humanity. And I had a vision in one of my meditations that these chakras, while they interrelate in this polar way, in the yin-yang way, also, if I'm born to 6 months old, I'm really focusing on my DNA. And then from 7 months to 36 months, I'm kind of in the middle. My family is nurturing. Then from 3 to 6 years, I'm all about tribal stuff. From 7 to 9, I start making choices and maybe decide not to obey all the tribal rules. The womb, this is my heart chakra energy is feeding all of this. It has it's feeding all of this. If it weren't for my heart, I would die. And then from 9 to 14, I developed my verbal skills, being able to speak my truth. This is when most teenagers go crazy. And then from 15 to 29 years, I developed my vision, my worldview. And then from 30 to 70, I start moving into more my purpose. And when I'm 71 or older, I'm now in my crown chakra. So anybody over 71, you got to listen to him. We have to listen to Richard because he's been around a while. He's developing that crown chakra as much as we like. Anyway, I thought I would share that with you guys. I hope I wasn't too self-indulgent.
Leave
But
it there, Steve.
that's
Leave
what?
it there.
Leave
Leave
it
it on
there?
the screen. Yes.
Okay. But I've had this
I
is what
wanted to make a comment on it.
yeah, okay,
Leave it
good.
there.
This is what my book is about. Is this the one you want to see, Manu?
No, there's nothing yet. You haven't? Okay, yes. So I just wanted to point out 3 things. The first is that in the background of all what you're saying, there was what you call coexistence.
Yes.
Coexistence. The word. The second thing is that in the beginning, what was there was polarity. In the beginning was polarity.
Yes.
Okay? Was the impact that created the formation that was polar. So the 2 poles were there in the beginning. The third thing is that what you were describing into your progression is what you call consciousness, because those things were there. It's not because you're starting from your tribe that your crown didn't exist. It was there. You are discovering it. You are evolving. You are becoming conscious of it. So you are growing in consciousness of something that already exists. That was my third point.
Cool. Thank you. I totally agree with you. Sorry, I didn't realize that I just changed my screen on you. Any other comments or questions before we leave and go back to the topic at hand?
Yep.
I-
Actually, Steve, please don't apologize when you're sharing all these, because where the chakras are concerned, right? Usually people oversimplify it, yeah. So until I started the meetings with all of you here, I never looked. I've never seen chakra stated in that manner, right? We know it as from bottom up, and one is the highest level, things like that. So they have a high level and a low level.
Yeah.
But the way you put it is they're all important. They're all moving at the same time. I've never seen chakra that way, until. So please don't apologize, yeah. And then the other one is people tend to oversimplify it. So you know how Richard, I think you keep bringing up this term called simplex, right? Is it Richard? You normally bring that up, yeah?
It's a complexity, yes.
Simplexity. So
Yeah.
when I saw this, I was thinking of that term, and it is not simple. The whole thing is simple and complex at the same time, and therefore it's been oversimplified for most of us. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Cool. Anything else? So I want to comment on what Anne just said, because she pointed something out that was very important. I'm going to go back to this example here. And hopefully now, yeah, you're seeing this. The bottom and the top, right? The polarity that Manu spoke about. These are constantly inverting on themselves. So we envision this top one the top, and we envision the bottom one the bottom, but it's the top is the bottom and the bottom is the top. This polarity exists simultaneously. It's simultaneous. So my brain wants to picture the thing. But as Richard points out, there's a tensegrity here. There's a constant precession of in and out, around and about, spinning, torquing, orbiting. It's all happening all at once. And the only way my brain can conceive it is to take a two-dimensional snapshot and stick it on a piece of paper and say, that's the way it is. And what I've got to do is sit, take a look at this two-dimensional picture, and then allow my brain to say, let precession happen, and watch it pulsate in and out and around and about, and just sit and have an experience of the precession of it all. Because nothing is static. Nothing is this simple. Everything is expanding and contracting and inverting and averting and expanding and inspanding simultaneously.
Yeah.
And when I sit and meditate, that's what I want to, that's the kind of energy. And like I said before, just like people go to the gym and they exercise their muscles, and so they go into a room and everybody goes, whoa, that's a big guy. We can develop our energy. We can walk into a room and people just sense that we're there. Yeah. So I wanted to point those things out.
Yeah, the top bottom relationship is actually very interesting, because I've been thinking about this. Like, it's the same idea, as above, so below.
As above, so
So-
below. Exactly right.
Same idea. So,
Yeah,
and you
same idea.
ideas of the of the monad, even what was actually being showed.
And of course, it is said of Jesus that he went below all things and above all things.
Yeah, and I mean, who art in heaven, how to be thy name, who art in heaven, how hang on, will be done on earth as it is in heaven.
Yeah,
On earth as it is in heaven. So the idea that that's the same concept as above, so below.
exactly. I like that, Joe. I hadn't thought about that. That's in the Lord's Prayer.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lord's Prayer. Good. Any other comments or questions? I'm going to let somebody else read while I drop all these videos in the chat so you guys can pull them down. All the animations in the chat. Anybody else? Any other comments, questions? All right, so let's go. And while someone else is reading,
Yeah. Am I
Oh.
on now?
you're on. Do you
Yeah.
want to?
Yeah, I was on mute, so I wasn't being heard. Yeah, I just wanted to pick up on this in terms of the earlier discussion about what happens between the expert helper and the if you want, the patient or the client. So the expert is north, the patient south. You have this dynamic that's going on, which is a zigzag that creates the motion that's perpendicular to the axis of the relationship. But I think what I've got out of it now from our discussions is what is so often missing, that the expert top and the patient bottom should be flipping,
Yes.
and then flipping again, and so you get this dynamic of working together. But somehow or another, we've locked into the notion that relationship is static. You know, the top stays top and the bottom stays bottom. But if
Right.
we could get that that rolling zigzag part of a procession in our head, so that we realize that that axis going back and forth is creating the motion perpendicular to the relationship that moves the idea of a problem to a solution.
Yeah.
It tracks it along to some outcome that hopefully is better than where you started.
There, you know, that's interesting because we were also talking about from the concept of where an example of somebody like an AA that has the same experience, but you know, they're not an expert trainer,
Right.
Yeah.
per se. And the other reason I just thought about this is it's interesting because when you have an expert, they may be an expert in a particular field with treating a specific type of illness, but there's this non-physical component to that, whereas the patient physical component. And so there's that kind of relationship that you can see, almost the intellectual and then the actual experience itself. And so it's almost like like the reality and almost like as above, so below in the same way.
All right. And I'd like to say, and confirm what Richard has been saying, there's a great book by a guy named Palmer J. Parker. He's a great educator. He's a Quaker educator, and he wrote a book called To Know as You Are Known. And as Richard talks about, having the doctor and the patient relationship and have those constantly be moving, the context is the patient actually knows how to heal. And a doctor who is willing to engage in that interrelationship and ask the patient and allow the patient to be an expert for a moment, and then maybe guide that patient based on whatever rules, that's going to be a healing relationship. And Anne certainly knows this with teachers. A good teacher is not one who instructs a student. A good teacher knows that the student already knows and asks the student how to explain what they are experiencing and let them come to it from themselves, right, Anne?
Yep. Best way
Yeah.
to teach and for them to learn.
Yep. I have chills.
Yeah, that's really actually a good example, because even the idea that if there's a relationship between let's just say a doctor and a patient, there's actually it's kind of back and forth, where if it's just procedural, then you just come in and just say what it is, and you're not necessarily listening. So
Right.
there's no relationship. You're just repeating a process or procedure. And I've seen that, unfortunately, all too often, where somebody comes in for whatever reason, and they'll just repeat something based off of a procedure and not necessarily really listen to the patient and meet them where they are.
Really good. I think Manu asked for the book. I think I have it back here on my shelf. I will check while someone else is reading. I'll show you a picture of it, or I'll just put the title in the little book below. Wow, what an exciting discussion. I love it. We went from ping pong balls and soap bubbles to real life. And I love this, and we're going to continue. Is everybody ready to continue with the reading? Okay, good. Here we go. There we go. I read the first paragraph only, and let's proceed. And then while somebody else is reading, I'll go find the other things. Hang on.
It's a little too big.
Is it too big? Good, thank you, because it's a little hard to control. It's so dadgum big. Okay, there we are. Whoops. Okay, good. Here we go. Equilibrium, equalization, and distances. Who would like to read?
I'm not seeing it. I can read from my book, but
Okay, good. Who would like to read? Nobody?
Well, I can read that.
I
Okay.
can read my book, but I can't read from the screen. So
I've got the screen in front of me, so
I got it too. So it's no problem.
okay, go ahead.
Equilibrium, equalization of distances. The connection to the equilibrium is perhaps the most important reason to experiment with sphere packing. A sphere is defined as the locus of all points at a given distance from a central point. Consequently, in an array of tangent spheres, their centers will be separated by a uniform distance. The configuration is developed in the previous chapter to represent vector equilibrium, requiring equal lengths in all directions, can be created quite simply with the aid of this model. If one sphere is completely surrounded by a number of spheres of the same size, the distances between the internal sphere's center and the centers of all surrounding spheres are necessarily the same as the distance between the centers of adjacent external spheres, provided all spheres are in contact with each other. The resulting cluster is shown in figure 8-40, along with a cross section of the packing to illustrate that the distances are the same. Closed packed spheres automatically set up an array of evenly spaced points. Equal distances represents balanced forces, ergo equilibrium.
And there is sphere 8-1.
I'm
Close.
not.
Go ahead.
I cannot see your screen is way too big, Steve.
Really?
Like it's not even.
It's fine because it's fine on my screen.
Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's fine on his screen. I don't understand what's going on.
I mean, I can. It's literally I'm seeing like 4 words, if that.
Really? I think it's on your side, Joe, because I'm looking at what the Zoom is projecting out there, and I can see all of figure 8-1, close packed spheres from array of equally spaced points of view, and I can see symmetry versus specificity of form, and I can see the paragraph below that. So I'm very confused.
Okay, I mean.
Okay, cool. I've dropped the name of the book and everything in there. And here is I'm going to unblur this.
Cannot see it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay,
And I dropped the
education
name and the author in the book down here.
to know as
And
we
his
are.
premise is, as a Quaker, that the students already know, and all he's trying to do is let the students find the knowing in themselves. It's a really powerful book. Little thin thing.
Education as
Education as a spiritual journey.
Hmm.
but the main title.
Is to know as we are known.
To know as we are known.
Parker J. Palmer. I think I called him Palmer J. Parker, but it's Parker J. Palmer. Good little book. I got this book like 40 years ago, so it's a really cool book. All right. Comments or questions? We will continue. Joe, can you see that? And you can read from your own book if you like.
Have to. Yeah, I know because I can't see it.
What I really love is this the spheres. And here's your hexagon.
Yeah, that is actually, you know, I mean, worth talking
Do
about.
you all understand that the symmetry is derived from the principle of duality?
Right. That's
That
right.
is, duality is at the base of everything. Do you understand that?
Absolutely.
Duality. From the polarity concept?
Polarity is duality in its own.
Yeah, exactly.
It's coexisting. The only thing to have the IBM here is that you have a coexistence, and then there was the coexistence of things that are the same dimension, so that the radii are the same. And the second thing here, I should say, that was important in the previous paragraph, provided that every sphere touch the others. They are all in contact.
Yeah,
That is the IBM, man. All in contact. That's the IBM.
the problem that I think that exists around duality is that there's been a past sort of teaching that implies duality is separate.
Yeah.
It's not.
And so to come to the correct understanding that a duality is an interconnection is a tough one, because I think the mind of most people, because of how we were taught, turns dualities into separate.
But life is tough, eh?
Yeah, I mean,
And the fact that it's tough doesn't how would I call it? Doesn't call out the truth.
No,
Right.
but and unfortunately,
So we are hidden the truth from, I mean, by I would say that ignorance, because the teachers were ignorant of it. And
Yeah.
they taught, unfortunately, in the formative years of many, many people, those things. So it makes a big struggle to really chuff out that noise and see the reality for what it is, truth.
Yeah.
We are always, duality is always at play. When duality or one and the other is, how will I call it, equal, you call about it equilibrium, because always equilibrium between things, or one cluster of things and another cluster of things. When it is of equal intensity, coexisting, it is balance. And there is flow always when there is any difference. And because there's always a difference, remember it's always dividing. It is self-explanatory that there will be flow. If a flow is the relationship of two things of different sizes. Because the things are always of different sizes, there's always going to be flow. I'm trying to now demonstrate the principle. So That's the reality. In the model here, she explained it, she gave the caveat, we considering things of the same. And then if things are of the same, necessarily we are the closest pack, which connotate with the most compressed. The most compressed.
Right.
Let's never lose sight of that and feel it. That's what it is. Otherwise, we get into duality is separateness. It is opposition. It's not. If you talk to a common person about duality, they will think that it is opposition. It is not. It is coexistence, which is completely diametrically, kind of different from opposition. It's actually a dance.
Yeah.
A dance. Okay.
Well, just to stay off the equilibrium, and I really have appreciated what the chaos theory approach to equilibrium has been all about, and it goes from the sort of concept of ultimate equilibrium, which is the flat line monitor on a machine, which defines death. Then it goes to what they call like close to equilibrium, and it's like a pendulum. The pendulum swings back and forth, but it'll eventually come back and stop. I've always used the analogy of that's like someone on a fixed income. And they've got a little stretch maybe, but they don't dare go beyond whatever their income can accommodate. And so even if they get out to the edge, it'll come back and it stops. So they've got very little movement. Then there's what's called sort of near equilibrium, an attractor, but it's like a central control. It's like the boss who then sets the parameter, and it can be wide or it can be narrow, and then they control it, just like the central control of a taxi dispatcher. You've got to have somebody to make sure everything goes the way it wants, but it's in the hands of one person or one thing. And then you go to what they call far from equilibrium, which is considered the healthiest, because it's got the most robustness and flexibility in terms of stretch way out and fold way back. And I found that now is a much better understanding of the dynamic of equilibrium and disequilibrium in terms of imbalance and out of balance. You get this continuum, and you can see that using my example of fixed income, then you get trapped into a close to equilibrium situation. If you're in the central control, then you can easily be in an authoritarian kind of regime, or you could be in a over-controlled domestic relationship, which can be abusive, or you can be in a really give and take sort of flexibility, so that you can work hard all week, you can rest all weekend, you can take a vacation, you can stretch yourself to the limits, but you got enough give and take that you're always mobile, you're always moving, you're always getting a chance to go the extra mile or sleep in on the weekend. And a lot of people don't have that sort of freedom to be able to have that kind of robustness in their life space. Yeah.
Okay. We ready?
Yeah.
I'm going to take just a moment, if I may, and I've dropped a whole bunch of pictures in the chat. So if you, while you're listening, if you'll go through the chat and download those pictures, you have them all. But I found this one that I thought is really cool. This shows the heart energy center. Each of the energy centers, this is my own graphic, I made this up myself. Each of the energy centers have their own toral energy surrounding them. So you see a torus around the root, torus around the sacral. The heart chakra, I actually show that, and then I show it out expanding, even though all of these tori are three-dimensional and going everywhere. I show them centered on their own energy, and you'll see the little rings out here, like the rings of Saturn, showing this heart chakra as it reaches across. Here is I grow. First chakra, I grow, I adapt, I decide, and womb, from womb to tomb. And then I speak, I dream, I know. And this is my interpretation of how the energy centers interrelate. And of course, a fully developed person, they're growing constantly, they're adapting constantly, they're deciding constantly, they're speaking constantly their truth, they're dreaming their truth, and they know their truth. This is a well-balanced being here. So
Steve,
I thought, yes.
in all humility, at over 70, it should be, I don't know.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, as soon as you hit something, it should be, I don't know, because you're right. A really smart person knows they don't know.
Right.
When I know that I don't know, that's when I'm really smart. Yeah,
That's when you know.
that's when I know. Exactly
Yeah.
right. Somehow I've got to work that in Manu, because I truly believe that. In my book, I'm going to actually ask that question. I'm going to ask people, do you know you know? Do you don't know you know? Do you don't know you don't know? Or do you don't know you know? I'm going to ask all those
Because if
questions.
you know you don't know,
Yeah,
it means you know the boundary.
absolutely right.
That's right.
Okay. So you know that you can be effective within the boundary,
Yeah.
and you could be apprehensive vis-a-vis outside of a boundary.
Right. I think I'll put one more big sphere around here, and it'll be I know I don't know. That's what I'll do. Because I know I don't know surrounds everything. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. Let me see what we have in the chat. Okay, wonderful. We have different some new stuff in the chat. Pull down those things.
Just hold on.
And
Give us
Joe
time
has,
to pull down, Steve,
what's that?
before you. I say give us time to pull them down.
I will. They're in the chat
Yeah.
right now. Let's continue reading, because I actually think we can finish this first section before it's our time to go. And so who wants to read? Okay.
Do you have any keep going?
Who said that?
I thought, did somebody else? I can keep going.
Okay, go for it. If you can see it, Joe, please.
Symmetry versus specificity of form. A sphere is the form of omnisymmetry in spatial reality. Symmetry describes the degree to which a system can be rearranged without detectable change. The sphere's shape presents no corners, no angles. In short, no landmarks, by which to detect the rotation or reflection. Its very shapelessness enables us to explore the shape of space. Furthermore, the total absence of the angular form makes the precisely sculpted shapes generated by packing the identical shapeless units together all the more surprising. It is easy to see that individual spheres are omnisymmetrical forms with neither surface angles nor specific facets to mold the form of clusters. Cannot determine through their own shape the overall shape of packings. In conclusion, we are not so much interested in the non-demonstrable spheres themselves as in using sphere packing as a medium through which spatial constraints can take visible shape.
Yeah, all that language is hard to understand, but I think your sentence there blew me away. Symmetry describes the degree to which a system can be rearranged without detectable change. So we've been talking about how the crown chakra interrelates with the root chakra back and forth. And the symmetry of that means that they can rotate around and there's no detectable change. If somebody's too much into the vision of the universe, they're not going to connect with people on the planet. Everybody's going to think that person is weird. And if a person's just too much into their DNA, into their physical relationship, they're not going to honor knowing, and they're not going to honor vision. So if I'm symmetrical, I'm constantly interrelating with myself in balance, in alignment. That's what I got out of that. Any other thoughts or questions?
It
Yeah,
is beautiful. It is a beautiful definition.
So really
Wonderful.
interesting.
Richard?
Yeah, I mean, this section that talks about shape connects to something again that I've sort of experimented with over time. But, you know, there's one thing to be able to, you know, say to a person in a general conversation, how are you doing? Or I can say, like we do every week, every time we meet, how are you feeling? And what I was working with was the idea of asking, what kind of shape are you in? And it's open-ended, so you can talk about your physical shape, your emotional shape, your spiritual shape, any shape that you want. But it does speak to the idea that there is some form, if you want, that we understand as shape that can tell you whether you feel like you're in good shape, bad shape, you know, excited shape, depressed shape. And it's quite a difference in terms of how are you doing is sort of getting at a thing.
Yeah.
How are you feeling kind of is getting at the relationship
Right.
between two or more things. And what is your shape today? And
Yeah.
and it's getting at that kind of
Yeah.
spherical
Another
idea.
another good word, Richard, would be what's going on for you today? You know, what's going on? So go ahead.
Yeah, and what I do with that one, because it kind of connects to performance, and it sort of is touching on your self-esteem. In other words, your external sort of performance in front of people. Um, and so it's a good question too, because it taps into whether people are measuring themselves by how well they perform or don't perform. And the shape allows you um, to think of yourself in that spherical sort of way and describe whether you're being pressured in, whether you're about to break, whether you're feeling twisted and turned, or whether it's just like the three bears and Goldilocks. Your shape feels just right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's even the way it's just, I mean, without getting too far off topic, but even this is the idea of using a word like shape and understanding the concept and the multiple applications that I can have underneath that concept.
Mhm.
That if you actually understand what shape is in its essence, then it can be applied in multiple ways to actually understand the reality of the world. So that, you know, if you think of, you know, again, this is one of the examples that's often used, the idea of run. You know, it's the most used word in the English language, and it has, you know, so many different meanings. But what is run at its core? You know, it's motion. You're moving towards something. So that when you understand that you start to be able to use the term run in so many different ways. But the same thing with the idea of shape. Once you understand the fundamental idea, then you can start to apply it. And that gets into this idea of dealing in the conceptual and bringing it into the concrete, and applying it to a particular. So I think that actually really speaks nicely to what we've been talking about when we were talking about it a little bit earlier, the above and below, the non-physical and the physical, because you take the non-physical and then you take the reality.
Any other comments, thoughts?
I would like, yes.
Go
Can
ahead.
you put up again, Steve, the definition of duality? What page was it again?
I
Duality.
could put it in there. It's not duality. You're talking about symmetry?
She talk about duality. That you can move, you can change without any perception.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that was in the specificity. Hang on, I'll show you that.
I just
Because
put it in.
I think we can read
Symmetry
one more
described.
section.
I
Here it
put it-
is. A sphere is a form of
So
omnisymmetry.
hold on. Yes. Yeah.
And this is it. Symmetry describes the degree to which a system can be rearranged without detectable change. Is that what you were talking about, Manu?
Yes. Now you get to Joe. What is called talk about the monad here
Yeah.
and link it to that.
Oh, it links directly to that.
Yes. So in the beginning, actual fact, there's two-ness, although you cannot distinguish it. It's so yin and yang that you cannot distinguish.
All right.
The singularity point is not singular, it's not one. It is a two-ness, so close and similar, symmetrical. It is symmetrical. It is the poles. You don't know the poles. You cannot distinguish the poles until like that's why we say one is negative, the other one is positive. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's so true.
So in the beginning, there's that two-ness that is symmetrical, but that is polar,
Right.
but you can distinguish it.
And that's the minimum.
Yes, that's the link I wanted to make.
Unity
What page is this?
Unity is plural.
This is on page 116.
Yes, I have it.
And it's at the
Thank you.
top. It's at the top of the page.
Yes.
It's the second
Thank
sentence.
you, Joe. Joe, thank you for sending me the book. Because I couldn't
no
find
problem.
it. I have to thank Joe publicly here. It's really good.
Wonderful.
Yeah, Unity is plural, minimum 2.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Does everybody need to leave at the top of the hour sharp, or can we go 10 minutes? Everybody good for going a little 10 minutes beyond? Because we took a while getting started. Because I'd like to finish this next paragraph, and this is next section if we can. Who wants to read? Organization of identical units.
I can keep
Okay, I'll
going.
take it on.
Okay, good.
Ann.
Organization of identical units, right? That's where we are, isn't it?
Yes.
Are we there?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay. Finally, the standard model of an atom. Here's is spherical. Packets of energy are spinning so rapidly about occupying a spherical domain. In fact, the orbit of any object spinning in all directions defines a sphere. We can therefore pack spheres together in the hope of learning about atomic and molecular aggregations. To state the problem more generally, the organization of identical units is an important theme in biology and chemistry. All sorts of units, such as atoms, molecules, cells, DNA, nucleotides, must be organized to function cooperatively in structures far more complex than the individual units themselves. Spatial constraints are responsible for much of the superb organization of biological phenomena.
Right on.
The next page. Allowing and...
Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Allowing and encouraging.
Okay, allowing and... Yep. Allowing and... My phone.
What is happening,
Allowing and
man?
encouraging certain... The influential role of space, scientific thought... Sorry? Yes, despite the influential role of space, scientific thought does not, as a matter of course, take this into consideration. Sphere packing can be thought of as a method of blindly gathering evidence. We experiment with these identical units without knowing the outcomes, and space enters into direct traffic. The resulting configurations are absolutely reliable. We are thereby able to observe the shape of space manifesting itself through the innocent spheres. Do I go on?
Yeah.
New
Unless there's a
level
comment.
of focus.
Go ahead.
New level. Okay. New level of focus. Despite our discipline of viewing whole systems, we have reached a point in which at which we must zoom in to look closely. Sections called closest packages in his book, rendering Fuller's observations inaccessible without considerable perseverance. But these patterns seem to elude application. It is therefore especially important to understand the logic behind Fuller's use of sphere packing in an investigation of nature's coordinate system. Otherwise, it will be difficult to see how these details fit back into the big picture. Even though the immediate goal of this text is to clarify the configurations described by Fuller, a list of results, no matter how clear, is not likely to be interesting unless the premise behind the search is understood. At this point, the reader may even have thought of further reasons to add to the ones stated above, for there are many dimensions of this issue. However, as it probably remains difficult to predict or visualize the patterns themselves, we bravely proceed.
Cool. And I think that's probably as far as we can make tonight and maintain our boundary on our time. So it's time for takeaways. Richard, how are you feeling and what are your takeaways tonight?
Well, I'm feeling in pretty good shape. Well, it's been a really good day overall, because it started off with our trim tab discussion and the kinds of things that we were talking about in terms of the education automation. And it was also a reminder, which is coming up in March, where there's going to be a special event at Carbondale, Edwardsville, Illinois, that's right on the 90th longitude, is it? Meridian, celebrating a lot of Bucky's work, celebrating the presence of several geodesic domes that are still in sort of driving distance in that part of the country. And that part of the country is considered to be sort of at the center of the US. So a number of people are able to go to it. I wish I could, but it's not going to be possible. So that was good. And as I was saying at the beginning, I just had a chance earlier this evening to be able to review the presentation slides and notes of my colleague that's going to be talking about her own personal experiences with suicide at a conference this coming week. And then to cap it off in the evening with our discussion here, and to have a good look at the spherical closest packing of spheres, and to have the collaboration of the six of us, or five of us, I guess, but to have Anne back out of some of her travels in and out, and to have Manu be part of this tonight makes me really feel in full shape, fulsome shape. So yeah, I'm feeling good. Manu, how are you feeling, and what's your takeaway today?
I'm feeling good. The sun is very early here today. I take away 2 points. The description of symmetry, and that the first point is that in the beginning, there was pause in a symmetric entanglement, two closely packed spheres. Second is the power of knowing that you don't know, meaning that you can discern the boundary at that stage of your consciousness journey. Those are the two things that I take away. There's many, many others. I really like Steve's, how do I call it, graphics. I've downloaded them the most I can, but I guess Steve will send them as a pack because I was just downloading, I don't know where they went. I know that they're on my computer in the Goki folder. Okay, so that's it. That's what I take away. Otherwise, I'm very grateful that I could be. This is my first this year. Actually, since last year. It's been almost a year. My last one was in March last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I'm trying to rest. You know, I work to and the time at which I had to wake up here deprived me of some very, very important time of sleep. So I will make a point that when, you know, you guys will indulge, if I can come in a call at any stage of a meeting, it might be the last 15 minutes, it might be an hour, it might rarely be right at the beginning, but I ask your indulgence for that. If you guys allow it, I will do it.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Joe, what do you take away?
There are multiple takeaways. I mean, you know, the idea of symmetry, I think, was actually one of those key statements that we're talking about. You know, and where you know, Amy has her description as you know, as symmetry describes the degree to which a system can be rearranged without detecting change. So you know, basically, you know, talking about the understanding of the model itself, of a system itself, and how it's actually configured. And so, I mean, this is where we can start to think about it in terms of how this manifests itself in the physical world. I think looking at it too from the perspective of, as I put in the chat, the idea that the monad is, I think, is a really important concept. And if you link that with unity as plural minimum two, you can see where there is this Pythagorean approach that kind of maps into Fuller's approach. And that was kind of a key. And we've touched on that in a number of different ways. And specifically, we touched upon it and how the relationships interact with some of the examples that we start out with, even with Richard, where we're talking about whether it be an expert and patient relationship or two people that have had similar experiences. But it's about relationships overall. So, which is something we discuss here regularly. But this is a different way of looking at it. And I had not thought about, I think I understand now at a deeper level why Stroopy, I don't know, I know Richard knows him, sees this as such an important part of Bucky's work, because he understands symmetry and how he's really focused on harmony. even in a lot of the objects, physical objects he creates. So I have a better understanding of what that actually means. And I agree with Steve's graphics. They're pretty remarkable. I don't know if you do them all by yourself, but if you do, then that's pretty good. I got one I'd like you to do. Yeah, like throwing it out there. But that's my takeaway, and thanks for everybody for being here. Anne, how you feeling? What do you take away from today?
And I think your picture's frozen.
Yeah.
Are you still with us?
Oh, you
There
don't?
you are.
Bad
Okay,
picture.
good.
Okay.
You may want to turn off your video because
Yeah.
your picture's
Okay.
frozen. Go ahead.
Okay, let's try this.
Wonderful.
The one that really got to me today is, how everybody talks about the things that you don't know, and you don't know what you don't know, right? Today you just added another one to it. Don't know that you know. Yes, so I'm gonna have a thought on that one. Okay. Yeah, because you talk about blind spots and spots and things like this, but don't know you know. I
Right.
think that comes up, but let me have a thought. And the last one is this. The next one is this chapter. I'm gonna see where Amy takes us, and Amy takes us where Fuller goes. There is no such thing as a sphere.
Yeah.
I see at the end of the chapter how that lands. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that. So, Steve, what did you take away today?
Really good. I think Amy's point was there's no such thing as an equiradial sphere. I think that's what her point was. But I love this conversation today. I'm so delighted to be able to share my graphics. Some of those I did myself. In fact, a couple of them I stole, but one or two of them I actually paid a guy a lot of money to do for me. So, but I'll tell you some of the most cool graphics. That last one, um, I did myself, and I'm kind of excited about it. So, Joe, if you have a concept and you want to, you should give me a sketch or something, and we'll have a conversation about it.
I would give you a sketch because
Yeah, because this guy here, which is kind of complicated, I did that myself, all of it. I found these little toroids and I put them around the chakras and I stacked them all up and then put things. So I did this all myself. Let me see. There was one I didn't do. This guy right here.
That's cool.
Well, I did this one. I had somebody help me with that graphic of me. So yeah, I'm glad to help. I had a couple of huge takeaways. I'm going to be on this for a while and make sure I pull down all the graphics that I put into the chat, because if I turn it off, the graphics are gone. So I'm going to stay on for a while. I'll pause the recording and I'm going to stay on and pull down all these graphics and make sure they're there. And I'm going to stick them in the next invitation and I'll send them to you individually from there. I had a couple of huge takeaways that I wanted to share. Remember, we talked about the section was entitled Symmetry versus Specificity of Form. Got that? Symmetry versus specificity of form. And we talked about how there are no perfect spheres. And just like there are no straight lines. Interestingly, in hypnotherapy, there are people, one of the techniques I learned as a hypnotherapist to help people through headaches, because I've had people, as a hypnotherapist, I worked with people who no medicine would affect their migraine headache. So I would actually invite them to sit, close their eyes, deep breathe, and then picture their headache. And the first thing I do is invite them to give it a form. Is it a ball? Is it a square? Is it a rectangle? Give it a size. Big as the room, little tiny golf ball. What is it? Give it a size. And now give it a color. And as I ask the person to rotate between what shape is it, what size is it, what color is it, gradually it goes away. Gradually it goes away because there is no form. And when the brain does what it does to capture a form and say, this is reality, It isn't reality. And so when the brain tries to capture that form and it keeps freaking changing, the person comes out of the trance of having a headache.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see what I'm saying? Because the headache is actually recycling an individual neuron or a group of neurons responding to a specific sensation. And then the brain takes that one sensation, captures it, and then amplifies it. And by consciously focusing on it and giving it a size, giving it a shape, giving it a color, give it a size, give it a shape, give it a color, gradually it morphs, and finally it just goes away. And usually it goes away in 2 or 3 minutes. So
Wow.
this concept of specificity of form versus symmetry is a very practical concept in terms of hypnotherapy. That's one thing I wanted to bring out. Also, I wanted to point out that we were talking in the book, it talks about the shapes of electrons and atoms. And I thought there would be no use for this. But about 7 days ago, I'm roaming through the internet, and all of a sudden I come up to this graphic, this deal. And by the way, I dropped it in the chat. But the video I saw was called. I'm going to screen share here and see if I can get to it. I hope I didn't.
Why do atoms look like this?
That's right. It's called "Why Do Atoms Look Like This?" Let me see if I can actually share my screen. Okay, good. I'm going to go over here, and here's the video. I took a screenshot of that, dropped it in the chat, and then I captured the link, and I copied it and I shared it in the chat. But this is absolutely amazing. The truth is, electrons don't look like that. Or let's say this, they only look like that when you look at them from one particular point of view.
Oh, wow.
And what this guy does is he takes graphics and shows you about 6 different ways to look at atoms and all the different shapes that they take. These are the electrons going around, I think, a hydrogen atom or something like that. And so, depending on your perspective, and you freeze that moment in time, there's a particular shape, but the shape is only it's a 2-dimensional non-reality that the brain perceives. We're only perceiving non-realities. So if you look at the chat, you'll see there's the last thing I stuck in there was why do atoms look like this? And there's a link to it. Why do atoms look like this and this and this? I added the this and this and this, and then I put the link there. Okay, good. Golly, it's so cool to read a couple of pages and have you folks on this call sharing your experience and just broadening up what probably if I tried to read this, I'd have been done with these 3 paragraphs in a minute or 2 and gone, what the hell, you know? And so it's so great to hear us sharing, and Anne and Richard and Manu, you know, each of your points of view and your professional experience and what you bring to this. I'm just so honored to be here, and I learned so much, and I'm just really thrilled to be able to share. I share this, nobody understands what I'm talking about most of the time, so it's really cool to have somebody who at least can go, well, that sucks. At least you see what is good and you see what it's not good. So it's just really wonderful for me to share, and I just so appreciate that. Okay, and look, not too bad. 7 minutes past the appointed time. And we started a half an hour late, or a half an hour beyond the appointed time. We were not late. We were perfectly on time for our experience. I love you all. Thank you. Any other final comments or questions before we go?
Love you.
Yeah.
Thank
Oh,
you. All right, all.
Well,
We're having a love fest in our international tribe, our
Thank
universal
you.
tribe. Goodbye. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe.
cheers.
Oh, I'm
Joe.
going to stay on. I'm going to stay on for a while. I'm going to stop the recording. Bam.
Yeah.
Okay, good.